We're going to be looking at 14 must-start players for Week 6, and how we do this is we go game by game, matchup by matchup, look at the game script, and pick one must-start from that game. We also talk about a bunch of different players from that game as well. So overall in these videos, we talk about 60 to 90 players and probably infer about a bunch of different players as well. But if you have questions setting your lineup, if you need help with that, drop that in the comment section below. Saturday night or so, I'll answer all of them to help you out. Make sure you hit that like button, and you also need to click that subscribe button right now because we're dropping deep dives on the waiver wire every single day, multiple videos every day on the waiver wire itself. We're helping you set lineups, helping you get trades done, and then also just giving you that information with the advanced metrics on these players. Just hit that subscribe button. Stop missing out. But we're going to be looking at the must-start players for Week 6, and we're going to go game by game. And the first one is the Baltimore Ravens at the Tennessee Titans. We got a 42 over-under. The spread's kind of tight, kind of nuts. That being said, Vegas is saying it's going to be ugly. We got a feeling it's going to be ugly with these two teams. More than likely going to be ugly. The way it could break, though, to be very productive for us in fantasy, if we get a lot of turnovers, game script breaks, they got to get faster than what it should be. That being said, we're more than likely looking at an ugly matchup here. That being said, I'm going with Zay Flowers as a must-start option in this game script. We got a little bit of pass funnel here. Titans allow 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers in the National Football League, and they're tough stopping the run. That being said, the Ravens are going to throw the ball a little bit more. They're going to be pushed into doing that because a lot of other teams are as well. And we get this from time to time in some of these matchups. He's getting 8 targets a game, 28% target share, which is elite. That is up there, and he's running a lot of routes. He's getting 68 air yards a game. That's increasing over time. At the start of the season, he was seeing barely any air yards, getting a lot of short targets. Now he's starting to get a lot of deeper targets. I look for this to be an ugly game. I look for this to be a game where it's going to be hard to make some decisions with because you know it's going to be slower paced. But we also know someone's going to score some fantasy points in this game, and it might be an ancillary jabroni because that's somehow the cookie crumbles. However, if you're looking at players and matchups like this, go for the guys getting the targets and the touches, hope for the best. That being said, when we look at the run backs in this game, when we talk about run backs is we just look at the other team, look at guys that if Zay Flowers hits, if the game script gets pushed, who's going to run it back on us? Derrick Henry, game script tight, maybe he pops off a good one, maybe he falls over the goal line. In these tighter matchups that are slower paced, the numbers haven't been there. But again, this is going to be an ugly one. We're predicting that. We're predicting this is going to be an ugly game. Nonetheless, that is really the take here. Same with DeAndre Hopkins, getting target share, getting opportunities. Things could break his way. That being said, the main takeaway here, it's going to be an ugly game, slower paced. That's what we're seeing here. Follow the guys who are getting the targets and opportunities. Now we're looking at the Washington Commanders at the Atlanta Falcons, 42 over under, and it's rated about the same as the previous matchup. This one could get ugly, though. This one could break a little bit. It could break a little bit as both of these teams can get ugly in their games, especially Washington. We've seen that. But we can also see these teams get pretty slow, get pretty ineffective. And we can also see the Commanders push the pace. It could go either way. And my job's not to be a politician, but my job's also to call it how I see it. And I could see it breaking one way or the other here, either being super slow and ugly or exceeding expectations in fantasy production. The Falcons like to keep things slow. They like to use their running backs. They like to slow it down. They're not sexy. Even though they got a lot of sexy players, they're not sexy. That being said, you just got to be wary. But this could be a game where you could sneakily make some stacks in DFS. That being said, Drake London is a player I'm looking at. 6 targets a game, 20% target share almost, running a lot of routes, getting some air yards. Not as many as last year, not as many deep targets, but still getting almost a 30% share of the air yards. And the thing about this is the ball's going to be funneled to the wide receivers. As the Commanders have been good, stifling the tight end spot, only allowing 3.9 fantasy points per game to tight ends. And they are allowing wide receivers to score fantasy points on them as they're second worst in the league. So that's something to look at. Of course, you're starting Bijan Robinson. We're going to have to talk about that. You start him every week. I don't want to infer that you don't by not mentioning him. That's why I'm saying that. Run backs, Logan Thomas, because he's getting opportunity. The tight end spot can probably roll in this matchup, and then Terry McLaurin because he's Terry McLaurin. However, when it comes to Commanders, they're spreading the targets out a lot. So guys like Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, they're also getting a little bit of opportunities. They're not hitting every week, but they're so random because the ball's getting spread out. Even Diamond Brown's getting a little bit of work in this offense. So that's something to pay attention to. Really spreads out the market share, targets, fantasy production, everything in this offense. But honestly, this is a scary game to start players, but it could be a sneaky matchup for fantasy production if it breaks in our way, but it could break the other way pretty hard as well. Now we're looking at the Panthers at Dolphins. 47.5 over under. Start your Dolphins. We say that every week. Start your Dolphins. We said that since like week 1 and 2. However, everyone's dialing that home now. The Panthers are going to get some opportunities as well because they're going to have to be in the comeback mode. They're going to have to keep up with this Dolphins offense because they are explosive. It's going to be a track meet. 47.5 over under is kind of light for Dolphins games. Usually it's in the 50s at the low 49. So that's something to think about. The spread's pretty thick here. But again, start your Dolphins because it's going to be explosive. That being said, we're looking at Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane out. Panthers allow fantasy points to running back. He's getting 49% opportunity share. Over 3 targets a game, 10.4% target share. So he's getting opportunity in the passing game. He's getting opportunity in the run game. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to throw the ball. They got a lot to worry about in this game. Run backs, pretty much anybody who's running routes for the Panthers because they're going to have to play keep up with the Dolphins. That's what they're going to have to do. Jonathan Mingo, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, anybody who's running routes. Mingo's getting a good target share. Chark's getting air yards. Thielen's the dependable option in this offense. So again, run backs running rampant. This is also a good game to stack in DFS. However, it's going to be highly exposed. So in big tournaments, you want a little bit of it, but you kind of want to lean away with it in a lot of your lineups as well. Now we're looking at the Vikings at the Chicago Bears. We got a 43.5 over under as it is expected to be a lower scoring game. Because the Bears are in this one. They run a lot of clock. It could be a lower scoring game, but I see this one breaking. That's what Vegas is saying. They're saying it's going to be a lower scoring game. There is risk for that, but this one could break. This one could break because you can pass on the Vikings. You can throw it deep on the Vikings. DJ Moore could be a must start here for a lot of you guys. He's going to be in a lot of lineup debates this week, but he is getting elite numbers and workload right now. Almost 7 targets a game, almost 25% target share, running a lot of routes, getting air yards, has been very productive as of late, and has had a very productive season. So in a matchup here, that's fire. And the Vikings like to push the pace. That has been their identity over these last 2 years. They were 4th in pace last year, 2nd in the league in seconds between plays ran right now. They want to move the ball quickly. They want to throw the ball. That might slow down a little bit with Justin Jefferson. Now, it should naturally do that. However, when we look at this matchup, we could see fireworks accidentally. We could see that the Vikings could try to push the pace on offense. The Bears might be more effective than usual. They could also be very blunderful because they are the Bears. If that happens, though, that could run it back the other way. When we look at the run backs here, TJ Hawkinson getting targets. Jordan Addison should get a boost. This offense on the Vikings should be getting some opportunities. Could be running a little bit quicker than usual. It could also break the other way. Bears run the ball a little bit more, soak up some clock. Vikings start to slow down the pace a little bit more with Jefferson out because when you got a wide receiver who's automatically getting open every single play, you can just line up and sling it. That's one thing you can talk about. That's what we saw these last few years. But he's out. This is going to be a different offense. But that's their identity too, so it should be still quick, just not as fast. Now we're looking at the Seattle Seahawks at the Cincinnati Bengals. 44.5 over under here. So middle of the road point projection here for this game. It could break because you can throw in Seattle. Cincinnati's found some fire here in the passing game. Last week, Jamar Chase went off. He could go off against Seattle Seahawks, and that's what we're saying here. Also, T. Higgins, watch for him. He should be back, should be getting some opportunities. Start your Bengals, especially the wide receivers, and then on the run backs, watch for DK Metcalf on the ribs. But if this becomes a faster-paced game, expect him to get some opportunity. The Bengals are tough in fantasy when it comes to holding down wide receivers and running backs. However, if it becomes a shootout or a sprint, you're going to want to have your Seattle Seahawks in your lineup. So in DFS, this could be a sneaky game to stack as the point projection is kind of middle of the road. We can see how this game script could theoretically break. Kenneth Walker should be getting some opportunities. Plus, he's got that 4.3 speed, could be breaking stuff open. You're starting him no matter what. We could see this one break a little bit. I could see that happening. We might want to make some extra lineups around this for FanDuel and DraftKings. Now we're looking at the 49ers at the Cleveland Browns. 37 over under. Both teams tough on defense. Nasty. Sean Watson out. Should make it even slower. This should be a slow-ass game. This should not be a fun one to watch. But the turnover department with the Browns could really make it ugly in one way. And that could be the Niners blowing them out because they could get ahead if the turnovers run rampant. That's one thing to look at, and that could push the over just because of scoring for the Niners. And the Niners are running very hot right now. Again, you're starting Christian McCaffrey, and no one's benching him. And I really want to throw him in here as a troll, as some people say, hey, we're not benching any of these guys, but we're also talking about 90 players in this video, somewhere around there. Brandon Ayuk's getting a 27% target share. The Browns, you got to be very leery here in this matchup. Bad matchup. Quarterback play is going to be suspect. Watson out, not looking good, and it could impact the players on the 49ers. McCaffrey's not a guarantee. Ayuk's not a guarantee. Debo's not a guarantee because this could be slow and nasty. This could be a lower-paced game. You're just starting them anyways because they are getting opportunities. And when we look at a slow, nasty game, you just chase the guys who are getting the top targets, the top workload, and you're rolling from there. You do not want the ancillary jabronis. Now we're looking at the Colts and Jaguars here. 44 over under here. Middle of the road point projection here. We're not pushing 40. We're not pushing like 39, 38. Spread is okay there. We could get some fantasy production out of this game. This could be another sneaky one as we got Gardner Minshew at quarterback. Could be spreading some targets around. That being said, Travis Etienne, again, you're starting him no matter what because he's good in every game script. If they're behind, they're going to throw it to him. If they're ahead, they're going to allow him to run the ball. He's averaging 18.4 PPR points per game. 77% opportunity share. That's elite. That's top tier. And no one's really bragging up Travis Etienne a lot. Run backs are running rampant right now. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman. This could be a high-scoring game. This could be a shootout. And Gardner Minshew has to deal the rock here. He has to get things going. Michael Pittman's getting the target share. Josh Downs getting the short to intermediate. Minshew likes Josh Downs. That could be a target 1-for-1 to go to. We got to watch those two heat up together. Now we're watching the Saints at the Houston Texans. 42 over under. If you want a sneaky matchup to create daily fantasy football stacks on for DraftKings and FanDuel or whatever you're using, whatever platform, this could be one. 42 over under indicates a lot of people are going to look at their projection models, stay away from this game a little bit, maybe package it up piece by piece. But really thinking about this game, I could see it breaking a little bit. The Saints like pushing the ball downfield. They use Alvin Kamara in the passing game heavily. We know the Texans can cook in the passing game. If they're pushed, they're going to push in the passing game. We could see this one going tit for tat. I think you can be very creative with lineups in this matchup for DFS and daily fantasy football. I think in redraft, you shouldn't be scared of this matchup. I know Lattimore is going to be there shadowing Robert Woods, Nico Collins and company. Dell's been dealing with an injury, but we should see the ball moving around the air in this one. I could definitely see that happening. It could be ugly. It could be, but I think this one's going to push for at least the projected point total, if not hit the over. And we're seeing Chris Olave getting elite workload here. He's an alpha in fantasy right now. 40.8% share of the air yards, 121 air yards a game, almost 9 targets a game. He's getting workload, must start every week no matter what the matchup is. He's also due to score more touchdowns. He got his first one last week. As we said, he was going to score more touchdowns last week, got one last week. He's probably going to get some more. And look for Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, anybody running routes on the Texans. Because CJ Stroud doesn't care, he pushes it downfield with accuracy. Most of his passes are catchable. Being very good for a rookie, really elevating the passing game in this offense. Now we're looking at the Patriots at the Raiders. 41 over under. This one could be ugly. This one could break. The Patriots are breaking. They're breaking right now. Things are not looking good. The Raiders are off and on. They're up and down. This could be an up and down matchup. That being said, revenge game, Jacoby Myers. Devontae Adams dealing with a shoulder injury. We got to watch him. He's getting elite workload. He's getting alpha workload. 9 targets a game, 26% target share, 88 air yards a game. That's a 34% share. He's getting elite workload. He should be regarded as one of the top wide receivers in fantasy due to that workload. Because any given week with that workload, you could get top tier numbers. We haven't seen that hit yet. If you're looking for a player to randomly trade for on the cheap, or if he's even on waivers, run and get him right now because he's cheap. You're not going to catch a 26% target share at a discount like Jacoby Myers is at. I might have to do a unique video on him because you do not see this type of workload at this price tag on the market that cheap. Run backs, hardly any on the Patriots. We're just going to throw Ramondre Stevenson out there. He's getting workload. Even though things are getting pretty split up pretty good with Ezekiel Elliott, you might be able to say the same with him. Again, this is a matchup you're leery with. Now we're looking at the Arizona Cardinals at the LA Rams. A lot of people are wondering about the Cardinals running back spot. Kind of scary when you think about it. 49 over under here. We're expecting points to be scored. Rams push the pace. Should push the Cardinals a little bit. So you're going to want to start some Cardinals. You're just not going to know who's going to hit for you. We're looking at Kyren Williams because you can run on the Cardinals. They use them a lot on the passing game. So you're getting good rushing numbers out of Kyren if that is true. And then you're also going to get him with almost 5 targets in this matchup because that's where he's averaged at. 12.4% target share. Pretty high numbers for a running back in the NFL. Of course, Puka Nacua. Of course, Cooper Kupp. You're starting them no matter what. Williams is getting a 71% opportunity share. That's elite. That's top tier. And he's in a good matchup here. Run backs, Marquise Hollywood Brown. The running backs, only if you have to for the Cardinals side. Only if you have to. They're going to be a huge gamble until the smoke clears. You're just going to have to pick your poison, see what happens. Nothing's going to be guaranteed with the running backs in this offense. Now we're looking at the Eagles at the Jets. 40.5 over under. This one could be tight. This one could be ugly. I expect it to be ugly in one way or another. That's all I'm going to say about this. It's going to be an ugly game. When things get ugly, you start your studs. You go with your studs. A.J. Brown is elite. 10 targets a game, 32.9% target share. I think we take those numbers for granted. 138 air yards a game. That's super elite. That's crazy good. That's amazing. In a matchup like this, you start your studs and you just roll with it. Run backs, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, because if this becomes a game at all, those guys are going to get some sort of production, even in bad matchups. Wilson can get you 9 fantasy points. We don't want that. But again, he's seeing a large target share. Breece Hall's good to pop off for a huge run. 70 yards off a clip anytime. So again, you're starting him no matter what. And if things break, you know he's going to get some gusto for you. Detroit Lions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 42 over under. They have the point total low in this game. They have it, which is good for daily fantasy because the models for some of these guys making a bunch of lineups for DraftKings and FanDuel might ignore this game a little bit, but we can see how this breaks. I can make a prediction on how it could stay low because the Lions can run the ball and keep it good. But when we look at this game, we can definitely see how it breaks, and that's because it could be a pass funnel game. Tampa Bay's good at stuffing the run. They're good at holding running backs down on fantasy production. Amon-Ra St. Brown's back. He's practicing in full. Look for him to get a full workload. Look for them to have to push the ball in the air a little bit. Maybe some Jameson Williams action. Maybe some Josh Reynolds action. The run backs. Watch Mike Evans. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury. Practicing in a limited fashion. He could be back, should be back. Trey Palmer, if he's not. Chris Godwin, good to go. Targets galore. Baker Mayfield will push the pace if given the opportunity. We've seen that this year. We've seen it. This game could get pushed. This one could be a high-scoring game that comes out of nowhere. I think we can create a lot of stacks with this game. I think we could make some money with this game. I think you're going to want to start a lot of players from this game. Giants at the Bills. This one could be funny. This one could be the Bills just killing the Giants, owning the state of New York. 44.5 over under. We could hit the over just with the Bills production. We could just do that. It could be that ugly in this game. I don't trust anybody. Stephon Diggs for sure. Of course, 10 targets a game, 30% target share. You want that. But let's just talk about the run backs here. Wan'Dale Robinson, getting targets, getting opportunities since he's come back from that knee injury. Ever since he was back in a limited role in the beginning at the Gusto, he was getting targets even though he was running just a few routes. Then the routes start ramping up, targets start ramping up. Saquon Barkley, watch the status on him. If I was him, I'd quite quit. I'd make sure that injury lingers a little bit longer if I was him. That's what I'd do, looking at this Giants team. Now look at the Cowboys at the Chargers, 50.5 over-under. We're getting fireworks. We're getting some fun stuff. We got a Kellen Moore revenge game here. That's going to be fun. They're going to want to push the pace. They're going to want to throw the football. The Cowboys want to get back right after last week getting embarrassed. This is going to be fun. We got a lot of narratives here. The Cowboys will just do weird stuff. That's just the thing. You can't predict the Cowboys sometimes. They do weird stuff, and we know this from years, decades. That being said, Austin Eckler coming back. The Cowboys are tough against the run. We saw that narrative, but we saw what Christian McCaffrey did as well. Eckler gets used in the passing game. He's going to get a lot of workload. The Chargers have been dealing with shit at running back ever since he's been out. They're going to be looking at him as a breath of fresh air. He's practicing in full. 99% sure he's going to be in. Run back, CeeDee Lamb, Pollard. This is going to be a shootout. You're starting everybody in this game. You want to start everybody in this game. This is a game where a lot of people are going to make stacks on. DFS, you kind of want to just be limited on it, but you don't want to stay away from it. But still, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this matchup. Those are the 14 must-start players for Week 6. We also covered a lot more players than that. Probably about 60, 90 or so, and then referred to a bunch of others as we talked about the game script, how we could predict they could break, or how they could live up to expectations. But let me know who you're starting this week. Whatever lineup questions you got, drop them below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way out, and I'll catch you on the next video.